Chapter 805. The Fate of the Great Summer Deity. Hearing this question, Xiaopingji's lips curled into a faint smile as he looked at Lin Jie, smiling but silent. Is that so? Lin Jie, somewhat puzzled by the meaning behind Xiaopingji's smile, couldn't help but ask, "No way?" 2 years ago, Commander Yi personally told me that it would take at most half a year for the origin of the Daxia Heavenly Court to be fully restored. At that time, all the Daxia gods would return from reincarnation and would have the ability to leave the Daxia territory freely. It's been so long already. Hasn't the origin of the Heavenly Court been restored? Xiaopinggu shrugged with a smile. Jie, do you know how highly classified this matter is within the Night Watchers? Lin Jie was taken aback. The situation of the Daxia gods is the highest secret of Daxia. The confidentiality level of this matter is extremely high. As one of the senior members of the Night Watchers, I know everything about it, but I do not have the authority to disclose this information to you. Lin Jie finally understood his meaning. In summary, Xiaopinggu had conveyed a simple message. You are not a senior member of the Night Watchers. This matter cannot be told to you. Given Lin Jie's current position as the captain of a special team, his information authority within the Night Watchers was already quite high. Yet even so, he still did not have access to this confidential information. But the more it was like this, the more curious Lin Jie became. Logically speaking, once the origin of the Heavenly Court was restored and the Daxia gods returned from reincarnation, it would undoubtedly be an event of immense significance, capable of changing the perception of the gods in Daxia and the understanding of the myths that had persisted for centuries. Yet strangely, the current Daxia, compared to more than 2 years ago, seemed to have made no breakthroughs in its worldview. There was no magnificent heavenly court suspended in the sky, no mythical immortals riding clouds, and no fervent discussions about the Daxia gods. Daxia remained a realm dominated by humanity. Could it be that the Daxia gods truly had not returned? All right. Lin Jie sighed helplessly. Xiaopinggu glanced at him, then calmly turned to look out at the moonlight outside the window. After a long while he suddenly spoke up. However, I can give you a slight hint. Lin Jie looked up in confusion. The Daxia gods are no longer in Daxia. After saying this, Xiaopinggu put on the coat draped over the back of his chair, gave a half-smile to the bewildered Lin Jie, and walked straight to the office door, pushing it open to head into the courtyard. In the brightly lit courtyard, the sounds of laughter and banter mixed with the aroma of various dishes flowed into the quiet office. Lin Jie seemed to have realized something, his eyes slowly brightening. The Daxia gods were no longer in Daxia. This simple statement contained too much information, such as, the origin of the Heavenly Court had indeed been restored. Just as Yi Fan had said before the restoration of the origin of the Heavenly Court, the Daxia gods could not leave the territory of Daxia. Since Xiaopinggu said that the Daxia gods had already left Daxia, it meant they had a complete and intact origin of the Heavenly Court. This also indicated that all the Daxia gods had returned from reincarnation. Combining this with the current situation in Daxia, Lin Jie could deduce many things. The Daxia gods had clearly all returned, yet there had been no significant impact. At least in the eyes of ordinary people, there was no change in this world. There could be 2 reasons for this situation. First, the Daxia gods essentially did not want to interfere with the normal operation of human society, nor did they deliberately emphasize their existence. They were merely guarding Daxia silently, just as they had done over 100 years ago, watching the flowers bloom and wither and the clouds roll by. Second, the Daxia gods did not want the news of their return to reach the ears of other divine nations. 4 years ago, Yang Jian's sudden emergence had sounded the alarm for many divine nations shrouded in mist. They began to realize that the Daxia gods were gradually awakening from reincarnation with strong hostility and would pose a significant threat to their divine authority. Thus, they started to attempt to unite with each other to form a unified front against Daxia. Of course, at that stage, many divine nations were merely wary of Daxia, and there was still a long way to go before a true alliance could be formed. What truly accelerated their pace of unification was Zhou Ping's ascension to godhood. The deterrence of a human becoming a god, combined with the existence of the Daxia gods, caused the threat level of Daxia in the mist to rise sharply. After 2 years of fermentation and accumulation, this front had taken initial shape and was even prepared to launch a grand and sweeping divine war. But why had they not attacked yet? Because within Daxia there was a variable, a variable akin to a doomsday nuclear weapon hidden deep within Daxia. The Daxia gods were that variable. The divine nations in the mist were unaware of the situation regarding the Daxia gods. How many gods had awakened from reincarnation in Daxia? What was their current combat power? Had they returned to the divine realm? If a full-scale divine war broke out, how terrifying would the damage caused by the Daxia gods be? They did not know, nor did they dare to gamble. It was like two opposing superpowers, where one side wanted to initiate war but was unsure whether the other country possessed nuclear weapons. If they did, how many nuclear weapons did they have? If war broke out, could they bear the cost? This was the reason why a full-scale divine war had clearly been brewing yet had not been initiated, as well as the fundamental purpose behind the foreign gods continuously stirring up beast tides to test Daxia. At the same time, this was also the reason why Zhuqing was so eager to build war fortifications. Only at this moment did Lin Chia understand why Zhuqing was so anxious to construct war fortifications, why he was willing to draw away the Night Watchers' forces from their homeland to station people at these fortifications. The Night Watchers were like a great hand desperately hiding the existence of the Daxia gods. Once the Night Watchers' defenses were breached, the Daxia gods could no longer remain hidden, exposing the nation's trump card to the foreign gods. Losing their trump card, the moment a full-scale divine war erupted, Daxia would have already lost half the battle. The Daxia gods had their responsibilities. The people of Daxia also had their responsibilities. In this era in Daxia, humans and gods had turned their backs to each other, standing shoulder to shoulder at the pinnacle of a tumultuous world, ready to face the wolves and tigers from the mist. Lin Chia sat there in a daze like a stone statue, motionless. The information void caused by his disappearance over the past 2 years was completely filled by Xiaopingji's simple statement. The doubts that had shrouded Lin Chia's heart were finally unveiled, and at this moment, the situation Daxia faced was clearly presented before him. Lin Chia turned his head to look at Xiaopingji's back as he sat down in the courtyard, his eyes filled with complexity. Chapter 806. Did she secretly give birth to a son? Headquarters of the Night Watch. After a busy day, Yuan Gang walked out of the archives with weary steps. In just a week, the training camp would officially open, and tonight he finally completed the compilation of this year's new recruits for the Night Watch. So tired. It's time to head back and have dinner with those kids. Yuan Gang glanced at the time and sighed helplessly. As he walked toward the main entrance of the Night Watch headquarters, a staff member suddenly approached him and called out, "Uncle Yuan, Commander Zhua is calling for you in the conference room." Yuan Gang paused, a bitter smile appearing on his face. Just as he was about to step out the door, he turned back and walked toward the conference room. It seemed he wouldn't be having a hot meal after all. Yuan Gang entered the conference room, where a large screen displayed Zhuqing sitting behind a desk, seriously handling documents. Other senior members of the Night Watch turned to look at Yuan Gang as he walked in. "Chief Instructor Yuan, you're here." In the video, Zhuqing smiled as he noticed Yuan Gang's figure. Realizing this was an online meeting, Yuan Gang was momentarily taken aback, then understanding dawned on him. Right, Commander Zhua had gone to Jialan Pass earlier and wasn't stationed at the headquarters in Beijing. "Chief Instructor Yuan, the reason I called you here is to discuss an important matter," Zhuqing said seriously in the video conference. "What are your thoughts on the selection of special guest instructors for this new recruit training?" Yuan Gang was slightly taken aback. Wasn't the masked team already decided upon? The choice of the masked team was made because there were no other options, but now things are different. Zhuqing's lips curled slightly. Now the Nightfall team has returned and has officially been promoted to the 5th special team. They also qualify to be special guest instructors. Are you suggesting that you want the Nightfall team to take on this role? Yuan Gang pondered for a moment. What about the masked team? I want to give the masked team a break. Zhuqing sighed. For more than 2 years, the masked team has been traveling all over the Great Xia without a single day of rest. Their pressure has been too great. After the Shenlong Pass was secured by the Nightfall team, the masked team secretly returned to Jialan Pass yesterday, wanting to continue guarding it, but I sent them away. These young people are too tightly wound, especially Wang Mian. The impact of that time travel incident 6 months ago still hasn't faded for him. You haven't seen how haggard he's become over these 2 years. If this continues, their health will break down. Hearing these words, Yuan Gang and the other senior members in the conference room fell silent. In the past we had no choice. After all, the high-end combat power in Great Xia is too scarce. Suiqing paused before continuing, but now it's different. With the return of the Nightfall team, the pressure on the other special teams can be alleviated. I want the Nightfall team to be this year's special guest instructors, and as for the masked team, let them take a break, even if it's just for a few days. I understand. Yuan Gang nodded heavily. The members of the Nightfall team are ones I've personally trained. I know them well and they are fully capable of taking on the role of special guest instructors. Good, then I'll leave this matter to you. Beijing Team's base. Us as special guest instructors? Hearing Yuan Gang's words, Lin Chia and the others were momentarily stunned. Exactly. This was originally the masked team's task, but commanders would decided to give them a break after seeing how hard they've worked these past 2 years, so this task has been handed over to you. Yuan Gang raised a cup from the dining table and drank it all in one go. Lin Chia, Bai Li Pangpang, Chao Yuan and Xin Qingzhu exchanged glances. Is it like the masked team back in the day? Bai Li Pangpang's eyes lit up. Assessing the new recruit's strength, 5 against 239? In that year's new recruit training camp, the masked team descended from the sky, suppressing the recruits' levels, and 5 of them challenged the 239 new recruits. That scene left a deep impression on Bai Li Pangpang, and it was from that moment he realized just how strong the special teams were. The masked team was the model they once aspired to. And now they had the chance to stand in the position of the former masked team and start crushing the recruits. Bai Li Pangpang was already getting excited. It's different. Although you will participate in the strength assessment like the masked team did back then, and the format is similar, this time your identity is that of special guest instructors. Yuan Gang patiently explained. Special guest instructors? What's the difference? That's a bit complicated. Yuan Gang shrugged. We haven't finalized the specific details yet, as this is the first time we're including special guest instructors. However, before the new recruit training begins, I will inform you of the requirements. Right now, I just want to gauge your willingness to take on this role. Yuan Gang looked into Lin Chia's eyes. Lin Chia and the others exchanged glances and nodded. We have no objections. Good. Yuan Gang seemed to remember something and turned to the other side of the dining table, where a girl was huddled in the corner, staring intently at Qingyu. By the way, I forgot to mention, Xinjin is also a new recruit participating in this training camp. If you go to be instructors, don't worry about our team's feelings. Train her however you see fit. Fairness and justice I don't need to teach you, right? Oh. Lin Chia turned in surprise to look at Li Xinjin, a smile appearing on his lips. Don't worry, Instructor Yuan. We know what to do. And Qingyu turned around and saw Li Xinjin staring at her, feeling a bit shy as she scratched her head and smiled bashfully. Seeing that smile, Li Xinjin recalled the figure she saw before losing consciousness, carrying a black coffin and a severed head, and she couldn't help but shiver. Xinjin, don't be afraid. We're really good people. Jiang Er appeared silently beside Li Xinjin, dressed in a white dress, floating in midair and smiling gently at her. Li Xinjin's face instantly turned pale and she jumped up from her spot in fright. Seeing Li Xinjin so scared, Qingyu sighed helplessly. By the way, Qingyu seemed to remember something and turned to Lin Chia. Chia, when I found Xinjin today, I discovered a strange boy. Strange. Lin Chia picked up a piece of meat. How strange. Qingyu stared at Lin Chia, her expression somewhat peculiar. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Lin Chia asked, puzzled. Chia, tell me honestly. Qingyu said softly, did you secretly have a son outside? Chapter 807, Star Sea Award Ceremony. Pfft. Beside her, Jialon, who had just taken a sip of juice, suddenly sprayed it out. Xin Qingzhu, sitting next to Qingyu, had his chopsticks frozen in midair as he was about to pick up some food. He pretended nothing was wrong, put his hands down and quietly perked up his ears. The entire dining table fell silent. Why, you had a son? Bai Li Pengpeng's eyes nearly popped out. Chia, you. Stop right there. Lin Chia was so startled that he dropped his chopsticks, turning to Qingyu with his mouth twitching uncontrollably. What are you talking about? How could I secretly have a child outside? But, Qingyu pushed up his glasses. That boy has the same aura as you. Aura. Yeah, within him I sensed a very familiar, golden power. And Qingyu paused before continuing. This power makes up his body, seeps into his soul and intertwines within his bloodline. From a genetic perspective he really has a high chance of being your son. Lin Chia was stunned. Wait a minute. Lin Chia grabbed Jialon's fist and asked, how old is that boy? He looks about 14 or 15. 14 or 15. Lin Chia was somewhat speechless. I'm only 22 this year. How could I have a 14 or 15-year-old child? Did I have him when I was 7? Jialon, Sigma, lol. And Qingyu thought carefully. It does seem a bit off. Let's not rule out the possibility that Chia likes to drive big cars. Chao Yuan added seriously. Lin Chia. That boy is very strange. And Qingyu recalled carefully. Besides the human aura he also has a strange cat spirit. Qingyu, what are you talking about? Bai Li Pengpeng was confused. A human, a cat and golden energy. What kind of being is that? To be honest, I can't quite understand what kind of existence he is either. And Qingyu shrugged. But I can feel that the cat spirit within him is not of this world. It carries a hint of divinity. Divinity? Upon hearing this word for some reason, Lin Chia suddenly recalled what Xiaopinggu had just told him. The medium. Some divine beasts with a special relationship with the great Xia gods can also serve as a medium between the gods and their agents. Could it be that the boy like Xiaopinggu is also an agent of some great Xia god? But why does he have my bloodline aura within him? Lin Chia was puzzled. After a few rounds of drinks, the two small teams had cleaned up all the food on the table, and the night grew even darker. Alright, it's getting late. Everyone should head back to rest. Xiaopinggu stood up leisurely as if remembering something and reminded Lin Chia. By the way, your award ceremony is ready. See you at the Night Watch headquarters at 8 tomorrow morning. The next day, a stretched Lincoln slowly pulled up at the entrance of the Night Watch headquarters. Lin Chia and the others got out of the car and walked straight toward the main gate, where someone was already waiting with a box. Captain Lin. The staff member, seeing Lin Chia and the others arrive, respectfully bowed slightly. The cloaks customized for your team are ready. Please put them on. Unlike the award ceremony at the training camp, the Star Sea Medal ceremony is a very solemn occasion. As a newly established special team, they needed to wear cloaks representing their team. To meet this timeline, the logistics department of the Night Watch worked day and night to produce these 7 cloaks. He opened the box, revealing 7 deep red cloaks lying pristine in the center, emitting a faint glow under the sunlight. Although the main color was red, it was different from the ordinary dark red cloaks of the Night Watch. These 7 cloaks had a deeper hue, and combined with their special texture, they didn't appear lifeless but instead carried a hint of vitality. Isn't this color a bit too understated? The staff member said with some concern. If the lighting isn't sufficient, it might look similar to the ordinary dark red cloaks of the Night Watch. It's fine. Lin Chia picked up a cloak and smiled slightly. A special team is still part of the Night Watch. It's just that the responsibilities are a bit different. Just like this deep red, it is derived from dark red but is different. It is the heresy within the dark red. Lin Chia and the others found their respective cloaks and draped them over themselves. They stood at the entrance of the Night Watch headquarters, exchanged smiles and stepped forward together. Night Watch headquarters. Award platform. On a solemn and serious stage, Xiaopinggu, wearing a regular dark red cloak and a straight sword at his waist, stood in the center, scanning the crowd seated below. Originally, the Star Sea Medal ceremony was supposed to be personally conducted by the commander of the Night Watch, but given the current wartime situation it was special. Zhuqing needed to guard the Jialin Pass and couldn't return, so Xiaopinggu had to take over. Currently, Xiaopinggu is also an important figure among the Night Watch's upper echelons, second only to Zhuqing. Naturally, no one objected to him presiding over this award ceremony. He stood in the center of the stage and slowly began to speak. Today I believe everyone knows why we have gathered here. Since the establishment of the modern Night Watch, there have not been many Star Sea level awards given, and this is the first time 2 Star Sea medals are awarded at once. I am honored to stand here and represent Commander Zhua in presenting the awards. Xiaopinggu followed the established process of the award ceremony. In a corner of the audience, 7 unremarkable young people sat together, yawning silently. Captain, don't you think it's been so many years and the headquarters hasn't evolved the award ceremony at all? It's always so official, it's making me sleepy. Xuanwu rubbed his sleepy eyes and complained. Beside him, Tianping rolled his eyes. What? Should we arrange a warm-up act for you before the awards? Invite a girl group to dance and liven things up? The award ceremony is supposed to be a serious occasion, not a show. Among the many audience members except for a few, no one realized that the 7 young people sitting in the corner were actually the masked team, who had removed their masks and changed into casual clothes. Chapter 808, Mask and Nightfall. Thanks to the Nightfall team, the mask team is currently enjoying a full vacation. Originally, the plan for the first day of the mask team's holiday was to sleep in at home until they woke up naturally. After all, they hadn't had a good night's sleep in over 2 years. But upon hearing that this morning was the Nightfall team's award ceremony, they hurriedly got up early to attend. As this was the first time since the establishment of the Night Watch that 2 Star C medals were being awarded, they didn't want to miss it, especially since the recipients of these medals were their former juniors. Regardless, they needed to show up to support and see how much their juniors had grown. Wang Mian sat in a chair, casually plucking a silver strand from his temple. As if sensing something, he turned to look towards the entrance of the venue. They're here, Wang Mian said with a smile. Everyone turned their heads in unison. Behind the door, 7 figures draped in deep red cloaks stepped out of the shadows, each holding their own straight sword or black box, standing tall with their heads held high, their eyes shining like stars. An indescribable aura emanated from them. The moment they appeared, whispers filled the venue. For many present, this was the first time they had seen the true faces of the Nightfall team. As they watched Lin Chia and the others walk onto the stage, the masked team began to murmur among themselves. Hey, Lin Chia has really grown taller over the years, hasn't he? Yeah, his demeanor is different now. That little chubby guy is still as chubby as ever, but he's quite cute. But why does he have such a deep scar on his face? It seems like the little chubby guy has had a tough time too. The one who has changed the most should be Shin Qingzhu, right? Look at him, he doesn't resemble the rebellious kid from back then at all. Indeed, his aura is so steady. He wasn't like this when he was trying to drag me down to die together back then, was he? Tisk Chao Yuan still looks the same, not like a good person. The images of those 4 from back then surfaced in the minds of the masked team, and they couldn't help but feel a sense of nostalgia. The Nightfall team bravely infiltrated the human circle in Takamagara, overthrowing the century-old divine authority within the world's largest human circle, killing the spirit beast Raijin of the Yata no Kagami, destroying the human circle's invasion plan against Daxiao, and saving over 100 million innocent souls. Here, on behalf of all members of the Daxiao Night Watch, I award the Nightfall team the first Star C medal. After the attack on the Qinlong Pass, during the second disaster-level Beast Tide, the Nightfall team held the Qinlong Pass with 7 members on their way back, delaying until reinforcements arrived, preventing a major catastrophe for many cities and lives along the Daxiao coast. Here, on behalf of all members of the Daxiao Night Watch, I award the Nightfall team the second Star C medal. The 2 shining medals, imbued with the essence of stars and seas, were presented before Lin Chia. He lowered his head and gazed at the medals for a moment before taking them out. The applause from the audience thundered. Among them, the 7 figures in the corner applauded the most enthusiastically. Holding the medals, Lin Chia's gaze was instinctively drawn to their applause. Upon seeing 7 familiar faces, his eyes slightly narrowed. Back in the training camp, Lin Chia had the fortune of dining with the masked team. He had seen their faces beneath the masks, and even though the members of the masked team now looked much older and more haggard, he recognized them at a glance. They had come to attend this award ceremony too? The corners of Lin Chia's mouth lifted slightly. Among the other members of the Nightfall team, some also recognized the presence of the masked team. Standing on the stage holding the 2 shining Star C medals, they exchanged smiles with the plainclothes members of the masked team below. This was the first formal meeting in years between the special teams 004 and 005 of the Daxiao Night Watch. Lin Chia's gaze lingered for a moment on the black and silver mixed hair of Wang Mian, his brow furrowing slightly, before he made eye contact with Wang Mian. Wang Mian looked into Lin Chia's eyes, a hint of a smile on his lips, and silently mouthed, "Good luck." The awards ceremony concluded. "Chia, were those from the masked team sitting in the corner just now?" Bai Li Pang Pang said excitedly. "I recognized that silly guy who came to wish us a happy new year at a glance." Chow Yuan couldn't help but interject, "I think you look more like a silly guy than he does." Shin Qingzhu stepped out of the award venue, looking around in confusion, and asked, "Where did they go?" "They left," Lin Chia replied calmly. "They walked out while I was giving my speech." "All I can say is, Chia, that last part of your speech was really awkward." "Was it?" "The speech was written for me by Jelon." "Actually, I suddenly feel that speech had a lot of depth and was thought-provoking," Bai Li Pang Pang replied seriously. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses. "Didn't Instructor Yuan say yesterday? After we go to be special guest instructors, the mask team would have a chance to take a vacation. They should have already left the capital to enjoy their holiday." "That sounds great. I want to go on vacation too." "Wait, didn't you just come back from a vacation in Japan?" Shangjing City. At the airport. 7 figures dressed in floral shirts and wearing sunglasses boarded the plane, settling into several seats in economy class, and let out a long, relaxed sigh. "Honestly, that last part of Lin Chia's speech was so awkward that I could practically dig out a 3-bedroom apartment with my toes," Xian Wu said, pushing his sunglasses up to his forehead, unable to hold back his criticism. "Let's not go there." "When Wang Mian went up to give his speech, it wasn't much better," Rose chuckled. "By the way, aren't we supposed to be on vacation? Why can't we take our team's private plane?" Tian Ping shot him a glance. "The private plane belongs to the organization. We can only use it for emergency missions. Right now we're on vacation and it's already pretty good that the headquarters is reimbursing us for economy class tickets. Besides, it's just a vacation. Do you want to land at a military base? Then walk out in a floral shirt dragging a suitcase? That would be a bit inappropriate. As long as you can go to Hainan and enjoy a quiet vacation, you should be grateful." Rose opened the window shade of the plane and began to bask in the sunlight. "Dear passengers, the plane is about to take off. Please turn off your mobile phones or switch them to flight mode." Ding ding ding. The crisp ringing sound echoed, and the 6 members of the masked team, lounging in their seats, simultaneously turned to look at Wang Mian. After a moment of silence, Wang Mian took out his phone from his pocket. Upon seeing the incoming call number, his eyes narrowed slightly. "Hello? Commander Swo." Chapter 809. The training camp approaches. A few days later. The day before the training camp began. The long whistle echoed as a green train sped along the tracks towards Shangjing City. By the huge square window, a boy leaned his right hand on his head, lazily sitting in his seat, staring out at the fleeting scenery, while his mind drifted far away. At that moment, a 6 or 7-year-old boy peeked out from behind his seat and suddenly tugged at the boy's hair. The boy winced in pain, frowned, and turned to look. The little boy stood on the seat behind him, curiously pulling at his hair while giggling. "Are you sick?" A flash of anger crossed the boy's eyes. "Why are you being so fierce?" A woman beside the boy stood up and glared at him. "The child doesn't understand. What's wrong with playing? It's just a tug on the hair, right? What's your problem?" "You." The boy was about to curse back when he caught a glimpse of the little boy's innocent face. After hesitating for a moment, he snorted coldly and turned his head away. "We're almost in Shangjing. No need to stoop to the level of a little brat," the boy thought to himself. He leaned against the window seat, gazing at the distant city that flickered in and out of view. A wave of drowsiness washed over him and he slowly closed his eyes. Behind him, the little boy blinked and with a mischievous grin reached out again, wanting to grab the boy's hair. Suddenly, he caught sight of the old backpack tightly clutched in the boy's arms, curiosity flickering in his eyes. He reached out and, taking advantage of the boy's slumber, pulled out a heavily encrypted document from the old backpack, hugging it to his chest as he began to fold it into a paper airplane. The boy seemed to sense something and suddenly opened his eyes wide. The first thing he noticed upon waking was that his backpack had been opened. He turned around and saw the little boy clutching a crumpled document, his pupils constricting sharply. In his mind, a volcano of anger erupted, and his fists clenched involuntarily. Boom! A low rumble exploded in the air like thunder. At that moment, the train car speeding forward suddenly trembled slightly. Sleeping passengers woke up in confusion, looking around while the train rushed into a tunnel, plunging the entire car into darkness. In the pitch blackness where one couldn't see their own hand, a pair of furious crimson eyes slowly opened. The boy had somehow already stood in front of the boy who was crumpling the document. "What are you doing?" Those crimson eyes locked onto the boy's, like a furious beast sizing up its prey. The boy was stunned with fear. Looking into those eyes, the boy felt as if he had seen something extremely terrifying and burst into loud, wailing cries. Everyone was drawn to the sound of the tragic crying, turning their gazes toward them. As the train emerged from the tunnel, light returned to the car. The bewildered woman saw the boy standing in front of them and shouted sharply again. "What do you want? Who let you come over? Get away." She seemed to be frightened by those eyes as well, snatching the crumpled document from the boy's hands and throwing it forcefully at the boy's chest, where it fell to the ground and rolled to his feet. "It's just a bag. What do you want? Bullying a child? He doesn't understand. Do you not understand either?" The woman's sharp voice echoed in the boy's ears, and the fire of anger in his eyes blazed hotter. "What do I want?" The boy sneered, bending down and speaking in a chilling tone like a demon. "Guess." Boom. In the middle of the speeding green train, a surge of flames suddenly erupted, and the screeching sound of brakes filled the air. One of the train cars abruptly detached from the others, sparks flying as the wheels ground against the tracks. The woman, holding the now frightened boy, sat in her seat, while the entire front of their car had vanished, as if an invisible hand had torn it apart. In the wilderness, the car billowed thick smoke and came to a slow stop. All the passengers inside, caught in the chaotic wind, sat frozen like statues, while the demonic boy had already vanished without a trace. Outside the car, in some part of the wilderness, the boy clutched the crumpled document, casting a faint glance at the destroyed car before turning and walking alone towards Shangjing City. He opened the document bag and pulled out a form. At the top of the form were the bold words "Night Watchman New Recruit Training Application," and in the applicant's name section, a simple and unadorned name was written. Wubai. In Shangjing City at the 006 team's base. Li Jinjin dragged her suitcase to the entrance of the courtyard, biting her lip as she looked back. The members of Team 006, except for Xiao Pinga who had gone to a meeting and Yuan Gang who was busy preparing for the training camp, stood in the courtyard smiling at her. "I'm leaving." Li Jinjin's eyes were slightly red. "Yes." Zhang Jinghan nodded slightly and smiled. "Safe travels. Jinjin, once you get to the training camp, take care of yourself." "Yeah, Jinjin, we can protect you in Shangjing City, but once you're at the training camp, you'll have to rely on yourself. If we get the chance, we'll visit you at the training camp. Work hard in training and graduate with the best results, then you can return to the Shangjing team and we'll be teammates in the future. Go for it, Jinjin." The members of Team 006 waved goodbye to Li Jinjin. Li Jinjin looked at them, her eyes involuntarily reddening again. She suddenly turned her head, trying to hold back her tears, and dragged her heavy suitcase towards the other end of the alley. When she reached the end of the alley and could no longer hear the voices of Team 006, her tears could no longer be held back, flowing down her tender cheeks like two gentle streams. She took one last look back at the distant, hazy courtyard. As she left, she didn't know what it would be like when she returned. Perhaps by then the familiar Team 006 would have vanished, replaced by a new team that felt strange to her. The courtyard would still be that courtyard as long as the Great Xia remained, it would always be there. But the people living inside might have already gone their separate ways. Li Jinjin wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes, a determined look appearing in her eyes as she faced the morning sun at the end of the alley and stepped forward. "I will take care of myself," she murmured. "You all take care too." Chapter 8:10. The Responsibility of Nightfall. Shangjing City. Nightfall Team's temporary residence. A figure in military uniform stood outside the door, gently knocking. Xin Qingzhu opened the door and was momentarily taken aback upon seeing the familiar figure behind it. Instructor Hong? That face was one Xin Qingzhu knew all too well. Back when they were new recruits in the training camp, Instructor Hong was the one they interacted with the most and left the deepest impression on him. After all, it was on Jinnan Mountain that Xin Qingzhu risked his life to interrupt Instructor Hong's suicidal attack. Xin Qingzhu. Instructor Hong looked at him, a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. Long time no see, huh? The current Shin Qingzhu was quite different from the one Instructor Hong remembered. He wasn't sure what Shin Qingzhu had gone through over the years, but he could imagine it must have been a tumultuous and painful journey for someone once so brash to grow into who he was now. Long time no see. A smile appeared on Shin Qingzhu's lips. Please come in and have a seat. Instructor Hong nodded and stepped into the room. Lin Chia and the others soon arrived upon hearing the commotion, their faces lighting up with surprise upon seeing Instructor Hong. Instructor Hong, what brings you here? I'm here on behalf of General Yuan to meet our special invited instructors for this session. Instructor Hong walked up to Lin Chia, patting him on the shoulder. Good kid, you've grown taller and more handsome. Lin Chia scratched his head, feeling a bit shy. Although Jia Lan and Qing Yu and Jiang Er didn't know Instructor Hong, they recognized him as one of the instructors responsible for the training camp, so after pouring tea and water, everyone settled down in the living room. I'm here to discuss the method for tomorrow's new recruit assessment. You don't need to say anything, we understand. Bai Li Pangpang chuckled. Just like back in the day with the masked team suppressing the same level and then having 5 of us take on all the new recruits. Instructor Hong looked at him with a strange expression. Are you sure? You 5 can take on over 600 new recruits. Simple enough. Bai Li Pangpang's smile suddenly froze. Wait, over 600? Why are there so many? Weren't there just over 200 of us back then? This year the Night Watchmen expanded their recruitment, totaling 612 new recruits. Instructor Hong shrugged. With so many, we regular instructors can't suppress them. Otherwise, why would we need to invite you special instructors? Bai Li Pangpang was instantly speechless. Back then the masked team suppressed the realm and fought against all 239 new recruits, almost facing a disaster. Of course that was because that batch included Lin Chia, Chao Yuan, Shin Qingzhu and Bai Li Pangpang for prodigies. But even without prodigies this year they would still face nearly 3 times the number. How could they fight? Moreover, among these 600 people was there really no prodigy? Lin Chia and the others frowned in contemplation. This assessment is your first appearance as special invited instructors, and it will determine your image among the new recruits, which is very important. Instructor Hong said seriously. With approval from the higher-ups, this year's new recruit training will primarily be led by you special instructors when you don't have urgent tasks, with us regular instructors assisting. In other words, you are the chief instructors for these 600 new recruits. How to train, how to assess, what attitude to adopt when facing the new recruits, and whether the training pace is relaxed or intense. All of this will be decided by you. We will only provide suggestions and support. You could say that this year, all 600 new recruits have been entrusted to your team. Upon hearing this, Lin Chia was taken aback. Isn't this responsibility too great? We lack experience in training new recruits and may not be up to the task. This is the intention of General Yuan and Commander Zhua. Instructor Hong said earnestly. You all know how tense the situation is in Daxia right now. War could break out at any moment, and in the worst-case scenario, these new recruits might not even complete a year of training before heading to the battlefield. In such circumstances, any conventional training experience and methods are no longer applicable. We don't have the time or opportunity to cultivate them step by step. Special circumstances require special handling. We must teach them the most useful skills in the shortest time possible. Equip these new recruits with the ability to survive under extreme conditions and help them grow as quickly as possible. These are things that regular instructors cannot teach. But you can. Instructor Hong's gaze swept over the 7 of them. Your Nightfall team has taken the shortest time to grow from formation to becoming a special team, and you have all progressed the fastest. Each of you has fought your way to this point from despair and crisis. No one understands better than you how to rise quickly in a high-pressure environment. So, Daxia has chosen to entrust these new recruits to you. Lin Chia and the others fell into silence. Instructor Hong was right. Among all the special teams, Nightfall had risen the fastest. Each of their backgrounds was sufficient to hold the position of special invited instructor. But with that came a heavy sense of responsibility and pressure. They had thought that this time as special invited instructors would merely involve taking on the role of the former masked team and just having a fight, but only now did they realize the weight of the term, special invited instructor. They were shouldering the future of these 600 new recruits. During this time, what they taught and how they taught would determine whether these kids would have the qualifications to survive on the battlefield in the future. Even Bai Li Pangpang, who was most looking forward to the easy wins, could no longer smile. We understand. After a long pause, Lin Chia took a deep breath and spoke seriously. This is a significant matter. Please give us a night to consider our plans and strategies. All right. Instructor Hong stood up from his seat. Tomorrow morning is the normal time for new recruits to enter the camp, so there won't be any changes. However, the formal assessment should begin tomorrow afternoon, so you need to be prepared before then. Understood. After seeing off Instructor Hong, the 7 members of the Nightfall team sat in the living room, lost in thought. Growing in a very short time, Chow Yuan frowned. What should we do? Pressure is the most efficient fuel for growth. And Qingyu adjusted her glasses and said, we must put them in a high-pressure environment. Only then will they be able to maximize their potential. High pressure. Shin Qingzhu frowned slightly. Simply increasing the training intensity might not be a good thing. What I'm talking about isn't that kind of training pressure, but the kind of high pressure that comes from a deep-seated fear. What does that mean? And Qingyu smiled slightly, the lenses reflecting a pale light. I have an idea. Chapter 8:11. The new recruits' training begins. On the day the training camp opened. In the deep mountains outside the suburbs of Shangjing City, a grand and massive military base was already crowded with new recruits arriving for the training camp. Name: Li Zhenjin. Age: 16. Where's your identification? Li Zhenjin handed her identification to the instructor, who checked it against the registration information and nodded slightly. You can go in. Your dormitory is in Area C, Room 106. Just go straight ahead and turn right. Li Zhenjin dragged her suitcase into the training camp, carefully surveying this military base that existed in the deep mountains, completely isolated from the outside world. She had lived in Shangjing for so many years and had long heard about a night watchman training camp in the suburbs, but its location and scale were confidential. This was her first time here. Half of the buildings looked new while the other half appeared old, suggesting that it had recently been expanded to accommodate new recruits. After Li Zhenjin entered the training camp, a boy followed closely behind and approached the entrance. Name: Lu Baoyu. Age: Lu Baoyu. You are Lu Baoyu. The instructor frowned slightly at the boy before him. What's wrong? Your training qualification has been revoked. The instructor expressionlessly pulled out a pen from his pocket and circled Lu Baoyu's name on the form. Revoked? On what grounds? Lu Baoyu was taken aback and then spoke angrily. At 4:50 p.m. yesterday, a train exploded in the suburbs of Shangjing City, causing half of the carriages to be left in the wild. That incident was caused by you, wasn't it? Yes, it was me. So what? Lu Baoyu replied coldly. No one was hurt on the train, I just taught them a lesson. You should be grateful that no one was injured. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing here now but would have been directly detained in a penitentiary. The instructor said calmly, your actions constitute intentional destruction of public property, endangering social stability, and have caused extremely adverse effects. After we investigated the matter last night, we decided to temporarily revoke your qualification to become a night watchman. After a 2-year probation period, if we believe you no longer pose a negative influence, we will grant you another opportunity to participate in the training. Lu Baoyu's eyes widened and after a long pause he decisively shook his head and shouted angrily, No. I finally managed to escape from home working along the way to save up for the fare and I finally made it to Shangjing. Why should I go back like this? I want to go in. I want to be a night watchman. Seeing this, the instructor's frown deepened. Lu Baoyu, do you not understand what I'm saying? Go home now and you will have another chance to participate in the training in 2 years. If you continue to cause trouble, you will never have the qualification to become a night watchman in your life. Lu Baoyu fell silent. He looked around and saw that several other instructors were also paying attention to the situation, their gazes slightly focused. After a moment he relaxed his grip on the suitcase, took a deep breath and turned to walk back in the direction he came from. Go home, he murmured to himself. I will not go back. Yuan Gang stood by the window of the training camp office, looking down at the new recruits continuously streaming in and sighed deeply. If it weren't for the 2 extra buildings added during the expansion, these new recruits wouldn't have anywhere to stay. Chief Instructor, the new recruits have mostly arrived. Here's the attendance list. Instructor Hong handed a document to Yuan Gang. Except for Liu Baoyu, who was stripped of his training qualification for misbehavior, the other 611 are all here. Yuan Gang scanned the list and nodded slightly. Although we have expanded the recruitment this time and brought in over 600 people, the number of those with the ability to enter the Forbidden Ruins hasn't increased. Nearly 1/3 of these new recruits are ordinary people without the ability, but they each have their strengths in other areas. Active duty officers, athletes, mercenaries, Go champions, chemistry geniuses, extreme sports enthusiasts. This should be the most diverse group of new recruits we've ever had. I wonder if Lin Chia and the others have the ability to train them well. At this point, Yuan Gang seemed to remember something. By the way, where are Lin Chia and the others? Have they figured out how to conduct the initial assessment today? Well, Instructor Hong hesitated. They have thought of something, but their approach is a bit unconventional. Unconventional? Tell me about it. Instructor Hong leaned closer to Yuan Gang's ear and whispered something, causing Yuan Gang's expression to become subtle. Chief Instructor, won't this be too risky? Instructor Hong couldn't help but say, we've been instructors for so many years and have never seen a situation like this. No, their proposal is quite good. Yuan Gang's lips curled slightly. Gather the new recruits on the playground immediately and proceed with this plan. Pass the order down. All instructors must cooperate with them. Understood. 10 minutes later. On the training camp's playground. Over 600 recruits in military uniforms stood in the open space, jostling together, chatting and playing, creating a noisy atmosphere throughout the playground. Li Jinjin stood at the front of the crowd with her hands in her pockets, frowning as she looked at the noisy group around her, appearing somewhat displeased. It's so noisy, Li Jinjin muttered. At that moment, a hand reached out from behind her and patted her shoulder. Li Jinjin turned around to see a familiar boy standing behind her, smiling at her. Fang Mo. Li Jinjin recognized him at a glance, her eyes flashing with surprise. What are you doing here? I'm here because I'm also a new recruit. Fang Mo pointed to the military uniform he was wearing and the name tag on his chest, which neatly read Fang Mo. He smiled slightly and said, I told you we would see each other again soon. Li Jinjin opened her mouth, seemingly wanting to say something, but remembering how he had left her alone to face the mystery just a couple of days ago, she turned away in annoyance. Oh, what does that have to do with me? Fang Mo was taken aback. At that moment, Yuan Gang slowly walked up to the central platform of the playground, scanning the crowd below and said slowly, I am the chief instructor responsible for your training this time, Yuan Gang. Above the clouds, a plane sped across the sky. Bailey stood by the window yawning. What do you think? What step are they at down there now? Probably Instructor Yuan is up on the stage speaking, saying things like, you are all new recruits, a bunch of rookies, no matter what your status is outside here you are just the worst of the worst, and other inciting remarks. Chao Yuan replied gloomily, don't you know? These scripts use the same template every year for the new recruit training. Chapter 8:12 The Night Falls. How boring. Bailey Pang shrugged. Then someone must feel unconvinced and take the lead to jump out. Lin Qiyi glanced at Xin Qingzhu with a half-smile. To suppress these troublemakers, Instructor Yuan will soon let them experience what the top combat power of the Great Xia is. And then with a loud bang from the sky, I make my grand entrance. Bailey Pang clapped his hands and laughed. When do we go down? Shouldn't the way be a bit more imposing? At least more handsome than the mask from back in the day, right? Wait for Instructor Yuan to give the signal. Jiang Er's voice came from the Bluetooth speaker. Calculating the time, it should be soon. Lin Qiyi nodded slightly. There's just a little time left. Everyone review your scripts again. When it's time to perform, don't mess up. Understood. At this moment, on the large playground directly below the plane. Unconvinced, Yuan Gang looked at those troublemakers stepping out from the crowd, their faces filled with anger, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. Do you think that just because you have a powerful forbidden domain or possess some unique skill your future is limitless? Do you think we can stand here reprimanding you just because we were born a few years earlier? Do you think I can say you are weak but not call you trash or garbage? Yuan Gang sneered. Ridiculous. What I said is absolutely correct. In your current state, even if you reach the Klein realm, you're just slightly stronger trash. When you encounter a real powerhouse, you won't even be able to withstand a single finger from them. Do you believe it? I don't believe it. Good, since so many of you are unconvinced, I'll give you a chance to recognize yourselves. Saying this, he took out a walkie-talkie and casually said, Nightfall. Sizzle. At the moment his words fell, the originally clear sky rapidly darkened, as if God had turned off the light of brightness, and a pitch-black night fell like a silent sea. This sudden darkness left all the new recruits frozen in place. What's going on? Why did it suddenly get dark? I don't know. It was fine just a moment ago. I don't know why, but I feel a bit anxious. This darkness feels oppressive, making me a little scared. I feel like I can hardly breathe. Do you think this could be man-made? Don't joke. Turning day into night in an instant? How could such a thing exist? In the pitch blackness where one couldn't see their own hand, the voices of the new recruits grew louder, as if only by huddling together could they drive away the fear brought by the night. At that moment, a loud dragon's roar echoed from the sky. Beneath the dark night, a blazing pillar of fire pierced through the clouds, tearing a hole in the darkness, and a giant dragon entirely crimson broke through the night, rapidly descending from the heavens. Its wings, swirling with flames and fierce winds, spread wide, the howling wind resonating in the sky, and the rushing hurricane swept across the entire playground, blowing all the new recruits off balance, nearly toppling them to the ground. On the back of the red dragon stood 7 figures draped in deep red cloaks. They wore various masks, looking down indifferently at the many new recruits below, an indescribable pressure emanating from them, mingling with the heart-pounding dragon's roar, stirring the hearts of the recruits. This red dragon was the awakened and fully evolved Hongyan. Now Hongyan had not only entered the limitless realm but had also awakened the bloodline talent of the Flame Pulse Earth Dragon. In a sense, she was now a true dragon-type creature. The dragon blood flowing through her veins was an absolute bloodline suppression for these weak new recruits. Combined with the aura emitted by Lin Qiyi and the others, this invincible and domineering scene had already deeply imprinted itself in the hearts of the many new recruits. The red dragon slowly landed on the playground, transforming into a massive magic circle before vanishing without a trace. The 7 figures lightly descended onto the high platform, their deep red cloaks fluttering in the wind. Under the night, the world fell into a dead silence. Hello. Lin Qiyi, wearing a Sun Wukong mask, had eyes burning like a golden furnace. He looked down at the many new recruits like a king and spoke lightly. We are the Nightfall team. As his words fell, the new recruits in the playground remained completely still. They were utterly stunned by the scene they had just witnessed, and it took them several seconds to slowly regain their senses. Nightfall? What is that? You don't know Nightfall? They are the 5th special team of the Great Xia. Special team? What's that? A special team is the 5 most elite teams of the Night Watchmen. They seem to be the new generation of special teams, having just been formed not long ago, and they've already earned 2 Star C medals. They are incredibly powerful. That's so cool. I want to join a special team in the future too. Just you. Do you know how hard it is to get into a special team? The last new recruit to join a special team was the top of the training camp a few years ago. I think their name was Jiang Er. Lin Qiyi stood on the platform not speaking, but he could feel that under the envious and admiring gazes of the many new recruits, Bai Li Peng Peng next to him was already grinning from ear to ear beneath his mask. Since you are unconvinced, I will give you a chance. Yuan Gang slowly spoke. Before 9 o'clock tonight, if any of you can break the mask of any member of the Nightfall team, that will prove you are indeed impressive. You won't need training and I will apply for your direct graduation tomorrow. Of course, if you can't do it, you must set aside all your dignity and pride, and no matter what the future training entails, you must strictly comply. Perhaps you might say the realm of the Nightfall team is so high that it's unfair. Yuan Gang extended his hand, pointing to the ground beneath him. Below here lies a suppression monument. Once activated, the realm of everyone in this training camp will be forcibly suppressed, not exceeding the cup realm. I know that some of you have already broken through to the cup realm. In this situation, if all 611 of you can't even touch the mask of the Nightfall team, heh. Yuan Gang turned back, leisurely walking down the platform with the other instructors. He lightly raised his hand, and the suppression monument beneath the ground was instantly activated, an invisible force field descending upon the training camp, forcing everyone's realm back to the lamp realm. After the instructors left, the entire playground was left with only 611 new recruits and the 7 members of the Nightfall team. Lin Qiyi, wearing the Sun Wukong mask, calmly scanned the crowd below, smiling slightly. Then, let's begin. Chapter 8:13. A simple probe? As the voice fell, nearly half of the 611 new recruits surged forward, their eyes filled with a spirited fighting intent. The other half hesitated, standing still unable to regain their senses. Only a few individuals quickly turned and ran towards the playground exit, fully aware that without weapons, they could not possibly match a special team. Even though only a small fraction of the new recruits charged up the high platform, that still amounted to over 150 people given the large population base. Countless brilliant forbidden ruins shone, crashing against the high platform like waves. Boom! The earth-shattering explosion echoed, and amidst the rolling thick smoke, the high platform had turned to ashes. However, the 7 members of the Nightfall team who had originally stood there had vanished without a trace. Huh. Where are they? A new recruit asked in confusion. They must have run away, another recruit excitedly replied. Even a special team can't withstand an attack from over 600 people, right? It's normal for them to run. What do we do now? Split up and chase. They must be hiding somewhere in this training camp. We'll drag them out one by one. The chief instructor said we were useless, so let's unmask all of them and show them we can win. Let them have nothing to say. Let's go. Split up. Under the command of a few recruits with leadership qualities, the group quickly divided into several teams, each pursuing in different directions. Li Jinjin intended to follow one of the teams but caught a glimpse of Fang Yimou standing like a statue, motionless, and frowned slightly. That aura, it's him. It's definitely him. Fang Yimou stared intently at the spot where Lin Chia had just stood, her eyes gradually brightening. He is Lin Chia. You're crazy. Li Jinjin rolled her eyes. Hey. Are you coming or not? If we can break any one of their masks, we can graduate directly. Don't you want to graduate early? Hearing Li Jinjin's words, Fang Yimou gradually came to her senses, as if she thought of something, her expression becoming serious. What's with that expression? Li Jinjin asked. Don't you find it a bit strange? Strange? What's strange about it? Fang Yimou pondered. You said the chief instructor invited this team over for what purpose? Li Jinjin was taken aback. To establish authority? Exactly, to establish authority. Fang Yimou nodded. But if it's to establish authority, shouldn't they crush us new recruits with absolute strength? I think even if the Nightfall team's realm is suppressed, it shouldn't be difficult for them to team up and intimidate us new recruits. At the very least, they should take the initiative to hunt us down, not the other way around, right? If that's the case, wouldn't it completely fail to establish authority? Li Jinjin was stunned, recalling the sight of those new recruits excitedly chasing the Nightfall team, and fell into deep thought. Now that you mention it, it does seem that way. But why is that? I don't know yet. Fang Yimou looked up, gazing into the distance. But my intuition tells me that this matter isn't that simple. Under the night sky, at the top of a dormitory building, a crimson figure wearing a Sun Wukong mask calmly watched the excited new recruits, the corners of his mouth slightly lifting beneath the mask. They've scattered. Lin Chia's Bluetooth earpiece lit up and he spoke softly. Everyone proceed as planned. Understood. Cafeteria. Dozens of new recruits rushed madly through the main entrance of the cafeteria, quickly dispersing to search. Search. The training camp is this big. We'll definitely find the Nightfall team soon. Another team is bringing weapons from the warehouse. They'll be here shortly. Who has a signal flare? Once we find a member of Nightfall, shoot it off to gather everyone for an attack. No problem. Lu Gu, let's go together. As everyone dispersed to search, a younger recruit approached another recruit, seemingly a bit scared. The younger one was named Qian Duo, and the burly man beside him was his roommate, Lu Yong. Seeing this, Lu Yong spoke helplessly, Duo, you don't need to be so scared. It's just a competition. Honestly, I'd say our chances of winning aren't great. After all, the Night Watchers won't let us graduate so easily. Ultimately, this is about establishing authority. Since it's about establishing authority, do you think the Nightfall team would actually kill you? What's there to be afraid of? But Lu Gu, don't you think the night sky pressing down above us is quite unsettling? Qian Duo said, shrinking back. Anyway, I'm just going to follow you. Alright, stick close to me. If you see any sign of the Nightfall team, shout immediately, got it? Got it. The two walked out of the cafeteria through the back door, slowly making their way toward the corner under the dim light. Just then they heard a whimpering sound ahead. Lu Yong paused, grabbing Qian Duo and signaling for silence. The latter nodded slightly and they both cautiously moved forward. They arrived at a thicket, parting the branches to look in the direction of the sound. In the secluded jungle, a figure radiated a chilling aura, flames flickering around him. He held a straight knife, blood dripping from the blade onto the ground, seeping into the soil. At his feet lay a blood-soaked corpse. Through the dim light from the roadside, Lu Yong and Qian Duo could barely make out that the corpse was wearing a uniform of an instructor. Their pupils suddenly constricted. They recognized that instructor. He was the one who had registered their information and directed them to their dormitory today. They had just seen him on the high platform at the playground. They instinctively looked at the figure holding the knife. It was a demon draped in a crimson cloak, enveloped in black flames. He seemed to sense something, stepping on the corpse, slightly turning his head to look in their direction. His terrifying crimson eyes narrowed slightly. Amidst the swirling malevolence, a sinister smile curled at the corners of his mouth. Hee. Malice, blood, darkness, and a sinister grin. He resembled a demon slaughtering all living beings. This scene completely stunned Lu Yong and Qian Duo, especially the latter, whose legs went weak and collapsed to the ground, losing control of himself. Aha! The terrified scream echoed into the sky. The grinning demon was about to charge forward with his knife when he suddenly looked behind the two, slowly halting his steps. After hesitating for a moment, he vanished from sight.